Thank you all for being here. I'm going to share two things which we all know. There are two things that which we all know, but sometimes we have to actually almost see it to make it real. Last night, family asked me to come to the Denver Hospice building in order to be there with them. And to me, there was the most important honor to this was going back to my childhood. I grew up in a little steeple in Kew Garden Hills, New York. And every person, and I would say every, but 90% of the shul were all Holocaust survivors, all had numbers on their arms. I learned Yiddish around the same time that I learned English, because it was either sink or swim. That was the only way that I was going to be able to learn it. When I was at BMH as the ritual director, and then also I read the Torah for 14 years, there was one time early on where I don't remember who I was talking to. My guess it was probably Cantor Kuttner. And I started speaking in Yiddish. And this woman who I'd never met, I'm from New York, so this was early on, came over to me. She says, "Where did you learn how to speak Yiddish from? You're a youngster." And I shared with her, and I didn't realize until I was talking to Bruce this morning that it was your mom. It was just one of those things like, this is it's a connecting piece that many of us have. Last night when I was in the room with them, they asked me to say vidui. And vidui is a tefillah, is a prayer that we say that's between the person who is either sick and or passing with them and HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Hashem. It's not about anybody around her. And I spoke directly to your mom, and Lorraine shared it with me. When I started saying vidui, she opened up her eyes. And when I finished, she closed them. And probably not more than 5 minutes later, she passed away. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, has every aspect of our lives in his realm. He knows exactly what's supposed to happen, when it's supposed to happen. To use, and I don't know if you want to call this a non-Jewish term, but many clergy will say that person is on a journey with God and no one else. Your mom was together with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They knew exactly what was supposed to happen, when it was supposed to happen. And we were all there with you being there next to her. Everything was as perfect as it could be. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say the first chapter of Tehillim. I'm going to read it in Hebrew and English because it really sums up what Marian Bashia was all about. Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach ba'atzach v'shoyim u'v'derech hatoim lo amar v'moshav leitzim lo yoshav ki im besoras Adonai chefto u'besoras yehege yomam v'loilo v'haya ke'etz shasul al pelgei moyim Asher priyo yitain b'ito v'lo lelo yibol v'chol asher yaseh yatzliach lo chein ha'rishoim kim kamos asher tidbenu ruach al kein lo yokumu rishoim b'mishpat v'chatoim b'adas tzadikim Ki yodei Adonai derech tzadikim v'derech rashoim tovei. Happy is the one who has not followed the counsel of the wicked, nor stood in the path of sinners, nor sat in the company of the scornful. Rather, that one's delight is in the Torah of the Lord, meditating in God's Torah day and night, and will be like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in season, whose leaf will not wither, and whatever that one does prospers. Not so the wicked, who are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked shall not survive judgments, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord loves the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked is doomed. I read this, and when you think of an Eshes Chayil, who survived what she did, brought up a family that has children that are involved in Yiddishkeit, the total antithesis of what the Holocaust and the Germans in Yamach Shemon v'Zichron were trying to do to us. We've survived. We have come forward with Yiddishkeit, which is again what drives us. Your mom being 96 years old, this is a generation there's not as many as there used to be. And it's an honor for us to be here to give her the honor and zechus in this final chesed that we can do, this final righteousness that we can do for her. To continue, I'd like to have Cantor Marty Goldstein do Mizmor LeDavid.
It's not often that I'm the junior cantor anymore, but I have this beautiful man here with me who knew a lot about what your mom knew about, what she saw. I grew up a little bit east of Rabbi Benji in Brooklyn, right next to Queens. And I also heard Yiddish growing up. I sang Yiddish as a young man. And slowly but surely that's going away here in America. But we have to keep it alive, and we will. We'll sing those songs and think about her life. Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai roi lo echsar binoter sheyarbitzeni al menchot yenaleni nafshi yeshover Yancheni v'maglet tzedek Leman shemo Kama ki elech b'ketz al mavet Lo yira ki ata imadi Shiretecha umishanetecha heima Yenachamuni ta'arov lebanai shulchan neket tzorah Tishan tavashem en roshi kosir vaya Achtav chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chaya v'shaveti beveit Adonai Leorech Yamim.
I'm going to take this moment to read what the family asked me to read about Marian Bashir. Marian Miklin lived 96 incredibly difficult but gratifying years. She dedicated her life to giving her children and grandchildren opportunities that she never had and fostering the family life that she was robbed of. In July of 1925, Mirka Kestenberg, who we all know as Bubby, was born in Slupianova in Poland. She was the daughter of loving parents Shia and Rivka Kestenberg, and the sister of Chanka, Sima, Yechiel, and Meir. Bubby's parents were community stalwarts, founding and sustaining local shuls, a homeless shelter for poor Jews, and establishing formal Jewish education for their daughters and the girls of their community in the form of Beis Yaakov. They were ardent Zionists and supporters, also supporting and revering a nearby Hasidic master, the Ostrov Rebbe. They were exceptionally charitable and were models of Hachnosas Orchim, opening their doors to the needy. Bubby regularly recounted how her mother would cook elaborate Shabbos meals, but she would not partake because she would lose her appetite from watching lice crawl on the clothing of their indigent Shabbos table guests. She recalled other moments from her childhood, like playing records with her friends and watching her uncles play tennis in their all-white uniforms. She had a beautiful childhood with many fond memories, which ended abruptly at the tender age of 14 when the Nazis invaded her shtetl. Over the next few years, she became an orphan, losing her parents, Shia and Rivka. She also lost her younger brothers, Yechiel and Meir, her living grandparents, uncles, aunts, and many cousins. Hashem Yinakem Damo. She endured years of slave labor, starvation, disease, torture, abuse, and countless selections. Somehow, some way, she endured all of this with a will to live and a desire for renewal. It is nothing short of a miracle that she and her two sisters, Sima and Chanke, survived the Holocaust. While she was robbed of her childhood, she was a quick study of her parents' values and priorities and always carried them with her. Not long after the end of the war, Bubby married Beryl Miklin, Papa, a fellow survivor, and the now Freiman displaced person camp near Munich. They took it upon themselves to attempt to rebuild what was taken from them and to perpetuate the Jewish people. After several years in Germany, they received paperwork to come to the United States, ultimately settling in Denver. Bubby and Pop arrived in America with not much more than each other and baby Mark, Zechrono Livrocha, and over time built a life for themselves. They had two other children, Jerry and Lorraine. They established a modest but successful men's clothing store and tailor shop on East Colfax. They saved for and cherished family simchas. They spent significant time with other Holocaust survivors, walking loops around Crestmore Park and the Cherry Creek Mall. They swam tens of thousands of laps at the JCC and later Cherry Creek Athletic Club. Papa passed in 1998 after a protracted battle with Alzheimer's disease, and Bubby again started anew. She dedicated her last decades to her children, grandchildren, and in recent years, great-grandchildren. She exercised for hours every day and scratch-baked the most decadent and appetizing pastries and cakes. Bubby is survived by her sister Chanka, children Jerry and Lorraine, grandchildren Alyssa, Carly, Tyler, Lisa, Aaron, Alex, Becky, Danny, David, Jason, and Zach. And great-grandchildren Bella, Molly, Ellie, Moshe Bear, Maya, and Jacob. The last thing I want to share before I introduce Cantor Kuttner. Cantor Kuttner is going to be reading from Eishes Chayil. Eishes Chayil is the part of the last chapter of Mishlei, Proverbs. And if you look at that chapter, it's very, very strange. Because the first 9 or 10 sentences are this almost like a rebuke. Don't drink, don't party, don't let yourself go, etc., etc. And then all of a sudden it goes into these 22 sentences by the Hebrew of the alphabet, which are titled Eshes Chayil, a woman of valor, Mi Yimtza. Where are we going to find her? The story behind this chapter is King Shlomo had married, again, as we all know, he married many, many wives, and one of them was the Bas Pharaoh, the daughter of Pharaoh. And he did what a groom, what a chassan is supposed to do. He partied, had a good time. Baruch Hashem. The drawback to his partying is the next morning he overslept. And the only person who had the key to the corral for the karbonos, for the sacrifices, was the king, was King Shlomo. And because of his oversleeping, since no one was going to wake him up, the Bnei Yisrael did not have karbonos, they did not have sacrifices. So his mother, Basheva, using modern day terms, ripped him a new one. She said, you drank, you did, you drink like this because what you did caused us not to have karbonos. So King Shlomo, as the king, had two paths here. As the king, even though it was his mother, he could have rightfully killed her because she was being disrespectful. But he took a different route. The different route was Eshes Chayil. He said, my mother, Eshes Chayil, a woman of valor, where am I going to find someone like that? And it goes through 22 sentences that are of complete praise of the mamas in our lives. And with that, Cantor Cutler. English.
Kemolasu toiv beloi oiv yemei kapu parseleyadi veyedeya ilecha Oh, Zudo Levusha, Batischa, Leyo Macharo, Tiu Posco Bechachma, Lesoras Chesed. So if you are lichot beiso, belechem matzlu, lao etzochay. Come over near Vashlu. Bala, bala, bahalilalo. Rabois bunois utachayil. Veya. ביד עליהם על כלנו שקר החיים והליובים נשאר ירס אדוני סלום תנולה מפרידי יעלה בשערים מעשי
To translate those number of sentences that Cantor Kuttner read, a woman of valor, who can find her? Far beyond pearls is her worth. Her husband's heartfelt trust is in her, and he shall lack for nothing. She bestows good upon him and never harm all the days of her life. She spreads out her palm to the poor and extends her hand to the destitute. Strength and splendor are her raiment. She cheerfully awaits the last days. Her mouth is open with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She oversees the ways of her household and partakes not of the bread of laziness. Her children arise and praise her, her husband, and he loves her. Many daughters have accomplished well, but you surpass them all. Grace is false, and beauty is vain. A woman in awe of God, she should be praised. Give her the fruits of her own hands, and let her deeds praise her in the gathering places. Now the family would like to share a few words. I'd like to ask Jerry if you can come forward.
It's Hanukkah, and we've been asked to keep it true for tradition. First, I want to thank everybody for coming. This is obviously horrible, but it's a respect to our mother. Tanner Kuttner, you're an amazing man. My mother loved you. I respected you. You're one of the last of the Holocaust survivors, and you are truly a righteous man. I will miss my mother. She was an amazing individual. I and siblings grew up in a world very different than friends that I had. Because of the Holocaust, I had never experienced the pleasure of having grandparents. We would ask my mother and my dad, what does it mean to have grandparents? So we were all that were there. My mother stressed the importance of family. Holidays, Shabbos dinners, outings with my parents and my siblings, and that was all we knew. We were a satellite family. My parents taught me the values that I live by today, the importance of family, maintaining a Jewish home, the work ethic that I still live by. Our family was the most important thing to my mother. She worked hard her whole life. She cooked every meal. She would be cleaning the house incessantly, doing laundry at 10 o'clock at night, because that's the way she lived. We didn't go on fancy vacations. My mother never had a credit card. She didn't know what a credit card was. When I was young, we would go and collect newspaper coupons and go up and down the alley picking up the coupons, because back then you could convert them to cash and she used that money to buy Hanukkah gifts and birthday presents. And my parents made sure we were educated. She made sure that we would be better than they were. My father said he was a tailor. His father was a tailor. He told me, you will not be a tailor. They paid for all of our schooling, made sure that we always had. And I took those same values and I've raised my children with my wife in the same line. My mother's gone. Her values, however, live inside of me, and I will miss her. I miss my father, and they were, however, always with me in my heart.
Becky, are you talking?
Our Bubby Marian was a pillar of strength for our family. She taught us what it means to have courage in the face of hopelessness, and she used that strength to raise my dad into the amazing parent that he is. He uses that strength to make us better people every day. Not a lot of people were as strong as my Bubby, and we are truly grateful for the time that we had with her. We love you, Bubby.
When a person lives for over 96 years, as Bobby did, we must show gratitude to Hashem for giving us additional, irreplaceable years with someone so wise. Truthfully, it takes a lot more than just divine intervention to prolong life to this point. It takes tireless dedication from family and from caregivers. I want to thank my mother, Lorraine, for dedicating the past decade and more to attending to Bobby's needs, making sure she was well taken care of around the clock and nourished and able to remain at home. Thank you to my Uncle Jerry for providing concierge medical care and advice and prolonging Bobby's life. The two of you demonstrated the Jewish virtue of kibbud av v'em, honoring parents, a virtue that your parents taught you. And all of us, all of your children, understand from your actions what kibbud av v'em is supposed to be. And we hope that we can show you the same level of dedication and respect that you were able to show your parents. On behalf of all of us, I also want to thank the tireless team that kept Bobby at home over the past couple of years. During the pandemic, people didn't really see this because everybody was separated and isolated, but a dedicated team of people, led by Rosa, Bobby's caregiver, kept her at home, but also maintained a quality of life for her that very few people her age and with her level of ability had over the past couple of years. And they just gave her an amazing quality of life. And it's really due to them. I'm really grateful to them. Rosa started out as Bobby's caregiver and over time became her best friend and confidant, and eventually with time, her caretaker. So thank you, Rosa, for everything you did for her and for my family. Your kindness and love means so much to us and of course to Bobby. I also want to thank the rest of the crew who took care of her for the past few months and also made sure that she could stay at home and be comfortable and be in the place where she wanted to be and where she deserved to be. So Julia, Mara, and Sharifa. They worked around the clock and there's no words that can capture the degree of gratitude we have to them. So thank you. I wanted to just take a moment to share a couple of thoughts about Bobby. Bobby passed on the second night of Hanukkah, and I think that this is appropriate because this holiday is emblematic of so many of her virtues. Hanukkah is the story of the Jewish people overcoming great odds and sustaining on very limited resources. Ultimately, the Jews survived and were able to perpetuate. This is the Jewish story and the story of my Bobby and Papa. Another thought. Bobby's namesake, Miriam, was the sister of Moshe and Aaron in the Bible, and she was the quintessential strong Jewish woman. Her essence is captured in a couple of lines in the Torah, which followed the dramatic crossing of the Sea of Reeds and the salvation from slavery in Egypt, which all of us read every year at our Pesach Seder. So I'm just going to read the line, the couple lines from the Torah in Hebrew and then in English. It says, "Vatikach Miriam haneviyah achot Aaron et hatof biyada v'tetzana kol hanashim achareha betufim uv'mcholot v'tan lahem Miriam shiru l'Adonai ki ga'al sus v'rachor mavayam." Upon crossing the Sea of Reeds, Miriam took an instrument in her hand and gathered all the women in song and dance. And she had them sing out, thanking God for saving them, and looking at these strong people on horses and chariots who were washing away in the ocean. As the Jewish people crossed the Sea of Reeds, they turned their backs on an era of slavery and hardship. And as they did that, Miriam, instead of freezing in place or being traumatized, led in song and dance on her way to freedom and on the Jewish people's way to freedom. She made a point of bringing joy to an otherwise complicated situation because she knew that this marked an opportunity, a time for renewal, an opportunity to perpetuate the Jewish people. This same attitude has carried with Jewish women for generations and was certainly passed from the original Miriam in the Torah to our Bubi Miriam. Thank you everybody for being here today. This gathering of family and loved ones is why Bubi survived and what she dedicated her life to create. Just want to say a few words about Bubi. Time is a measure of existence, of events in the past, present, and future. As my Bubi Miriam Bas Shaya lived her life to the fullest, with all the trauma she endured, from losing her family at a young age to being starved in concentration camps, she never gave up and fought back till the very end. My Bubi was one of the strongest people I know. It would have been easy to give up, but instead she decided to live life to the fullest. My Bubi and Papa came to America with their son Mark and a box of newly bought dishes. They lived the American dream and eventually grew our family into what it is today, with multiple grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And with that, Hanukkah in mind today, my Bubi was like the shamish that helped light the menorah. And Mom, you are the candle that helped radiate that brightness. You did everything and anything for Bubi, no matter what time, without question. You gave her the ability to live peacefully in her home. You gave her the ability to enjoy these past couple of years with Moshe. She appreciated every moment she had with him, and it was all due to you. I look up to you and Jerry with the utmost respect for keeping the sacred commandment of Kaved Avicha v'Yasimecha, honor your mother and your father. With the idea of time in mind, Bubi, your past will help guide me through my future, and in the present, you will always be with me. Thank you for coming.
It's okay. Yeah. Right. It's hard.
Nice.
Yeah.
How are you doing? I haven't seen you since Buenos Aires. Oh, cute.
No, I heard on the radio. So I
No, I already think it was, I already, usually they send out notes before it. I mean, that's a reminder. I don't usually get, like, I don't really get it, I never got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, since today's the holiday of Hanukkah, we normally today is Hanukkah, excuse me, since today is Hanukkah, We're not going to say the normal memorial prayer until Mole, but the cantor has a prayer that he's going to be repeating in his place.
ורחום ערך אפיים ורב המצח אפורה תשע והקרובה ישע ומנוחה נכונה במעלות קדושים נותרים כזוהר הרקיע מה זה אז נשמס ושמרים בשיע שהלכה ליבוא עולמו אנחנו בעלו רחמים זכר לה לתועבה קודחו יוסיה בצדק יוסיה בארצו ישחיים ופסח לה שערי צדק ויוהרה שערי חמלה וחניים בססר גנבך הסירה ליבוא עולמי נוצר בצרוי רחיים אז נשמוסו אדוני נחלתו ושנוח בשלום נעל משכבו ונאמר amen.
Again, given the fact that today is Hanukkah and a holiday, the children will say the mourner's Kaddish, but a regular mourner's Kaddish, not the normal Kaddish that they say.
Amen.
Shiva will be this week at the house of the Greensteins at 99 Locust Street. The times are this evening, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. and then again 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And on Friday, 11 a.m. to 1. Motzei Shabbos after Shabbos, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I can ask everyone to form 2 rows so the mourners can walk between us to conclude the service.